Hello Fragrance family, welcome to Fragrance Therapy. I'm your host Alam. So for me, Absolu Aventus is a 10 out of 10 fragrance, but a 75 ml bottle goes for freaking $350 and that's at discounters. At retail, I think it's around like 500 bucks. So naturally, because of the price tag and popularity, on came the dupes. Well, I bought 5 of the most popular ones, so you didn't have to guess which one was the best. So with all that said, let's do a clone face-off. Let's talk about Absolu Aventus first, the original. It was not included in this Creed Discovery set, so I ended up buying a separate decant. That's all that's left, so I'm saving this for whenever I need to do testing. So Absolu Aventus is essentially a bold reimagining of that Aventus DNA. Retains that iconic pineapple and citrus, but tones it down a bit. Also introduces this darker, spicier scent profile with strong notes of ginger, cinnamon, and like cardamom. Essentially, it's a more mature, concentrated version of the original. Also tones down that heavy like smokiness from the birch that you get in the OG Aventus, and opts for a more earthier base with vetiver and patchouli. The performance is good, miles ahead of the current batches of the original Aventus, but still not a monster. 7 max 7.5 hours. Solid projection, but by no means a room filler. To me, Absolu Aventus is a quintessential like formal occasion date night fragrance, especially in the colder weather. The only time I would probably avoid it is like the really high heat of the summer, but milder summer days I think it'll work absolutely fine. I think Creed knocked it out of the park with this one. It's familiar enough that you can definitely tell it's related to that classic OG Aventus, but it's bold and different enough to do its own thing. So with that said, let's get into the dupes. I'm gonna go from my least favorite to my most favorite. Things I considered, of course, which one I like reaching for, but also closeness, performance, and price. But before we start, I want to make one thing absolutely clear. None of these are one-to-one. They all have differences. Some of the differences are more subtle than others, but still they're there. Same goes with quality. Absolu Aventus smells more expensive, comes off more natural. In fact, I think that might be why the performance is not a monster, because they do use some very naturalistic accords. Some of these dupes come off definitely more synthetic. If you want the exact scent profile with the same exact quality, you're gonna have to buy the OG. But that does not mean that there aren't some really good alternatives, because on the flip side, of these 5, I think none of them are absolutely horrible. Even the last place is at the very least decent, good. So in last place we have Zamaya's The Club. And look, this thing, first of all, is super affordable. It might be tied with another one as far as when it comes to affordability. I mean, this thing is only 25 bucks. On top of that, the opening gets surprisingly close for a $25 fragrance, but there definitely are a few differences. Definitely smells the cheapest. It also is kind of like a blend because it tries to keep a lot of the original Aventus and the Absolu Aventus at the same time. It does tone down that earthiness of Absolu Aventus and instead opts to include that smoky birch of the original Aventus that kind of is not present in Absolu. I think this one is the worst performer on the list. Longevity is maybe 6 hours max. Projection is good, but by no means great. And the dry down is where this one completely veers off. Not that it's bad, but it's nothing like the original Absolute. It becomes creamy, airy, almost like a shaving cream scent profile, and loses all complexity of the original. Okay, so next up, this might surprise some people, but it's Afnan Supremacy Collector's Edition. Now, before you all kill me in the comments, let me explain. If this was just about how good something smells, this certainly would be higher, but it's not. This is an Absolu Aventus clone face-off, so a big factor in ranking these is how close it gets to the OG. And of all 5 that I have, this might be the biggest departure, because to me, this takes that base Absolu Aventus DNA and mixes it with Afnan's own 9 PM Rebel. That's this guy right here. So I think it takes that Absolu Aventus DNA, maybe like 75%, and mixes a good solid 25%, maybe even 30% of 9 PM Rebel. This one is by far the most mass-appealing youthful twist on the DNA. They significantly dosed up the juicy fruits and toned down that earthy base. You don't really realize how different they are until you do a side-by-side. But one thing to note, this one does outperform the OG, a solid 8 hours of longevity, strong projection for the first hour. Maybe tied for the best performer on this list. Killer twist on the DNA, and though the Absolu Aventus DNA is definitely still there, and it is the most prominent DNA in this fragrance, but that 9 PM Rebel, the fruitiness from that, is present enough for me to call this almost like a hybrid. Excellent fragrance on its own right, absolutely. Closest to the OG, not by a long shot. So the next one was a big surprise for me, and that's Atralia's Absolute Noir. It gets closer to the OG compared to this Afnan Collector's Edition, but still it is a bit of a twist. This is by far the freshest take on the DNA. It has this like airy quality in the opening, less dense take on the DNA, keeps some of those spices but it tones them down, doubles down on the citrus, and also adds a very interesting watermelon accord. On top of that, as it dries down, it definitely does still keep that earthy base of the OG, and it all kind of surprisingly works really well. Performance is on par with the OG also, 7 hours, good projection, not a big twist, not as big twist as, at least as Collector's Edition, but a twist nonetheless. A lighter, airier version of the scent profile, maybe easier to wear for some. Also, this is tied with the Zamaya when it comes to price. I think this is about 25 bucks also. So if you're looking for a really, really good, cheap option that's really cheap, this is not a bad choice at all. Okay, so the next two are kind of like 1A and 1B. The two being Maison Asrar's Vanguard and Armaf's Precieux one. They both have tons of strengths, and I freaking hate this like dangly thing, and a few shortcomings, but their strengths kind of lie in different places. It will all come down to which of the strengths is more important to you. So let's start with the Maison Asrar Vanguard. When it comes to closeness to the OG, this is right there with the Armaf. It might even edge it out by a teeny tiny margin. Again, it's not a one-to-one like some folks are saying online, but there's no denying that it gets really close. Also, out of all the dupes, I think the ingredients come off the least synthetic in this one. Because when it comes to these clones, the opening is when you feel that harshness the most, and it's definitely the most toned down in this one. Performance is decent, about on par with the OG, 7-ish hours with good projection. But the biggest thing with this one over the Precieux is value, because they give you double the juice for about the same price. On the flip side, if I was just judging the scents from which one I like better, I would have to say it's Armaf's Precieux one. It takes everything I love about Absolu Aventus DNA and adds this touch of sweetness with caramel and pear. Also, I think this one comes off the most complex, the most interesting. It has fruits, it has sweetness, it has spices, woodiness, earthiness, all like incredibly blended. It gets incredibly close to the OG, but adds its own personality. Also, this is probably the best performer on the list. 8+ hours of longevity, strong projection for the first couple of hours. This one is my go-to scent for when I travel for work to meet my customers. It gives off this masculine, mature confidence that is perfect for that environment. But at the end of the day, the biggest issue with this one is price, because this is about half. I think this is 50 ml, 55 ml, and Vanguard is a full 100 ml. And they're the same price. Yes, it's the strongest performer, so maybe you can use less sprays, but not by half. So again, two very, very solid options. So if closeness and value is the most important to you, go with Vanguard. If complexity, performance, and a bit of a unique touch is more important to you, go with Armaf. If I had a gun to my head and somebody said you could only choose one, I'm gonna have to go with Armaf. I think it's absolutely awesome. When it comes to being an Absolu Aventus clone, these two are like I said, 1A and 1B, depends on what you're looking for. This is an incredible budget option. This one is an incredible twist or hybrid version of that DNA. This is probably the only one I would say just avoid, because there are other better options, even if you're looking for a really affordable option. So there you have it, folks. My take on 5 of probably the most popular Absolu Aventus dupes out there on the market. Let me know in the comments if you differ completely from me, if you agree. Either way is cool. Also, please hit the like and subscribe button so we can keep growing this channel together. We are marching our way to 10,000 subs, and then we'll keep on going. But I can only do that with your support. And as always, stay tuned for more honest, affordable fragrance content. Until next time, I'm out.